Thanks for stopping by and checking out some of my videos. Hope you have enjoyed them. I'd like to talk to you a little bit now about my writing. Whenever I speak at book signings in bookstores or at book clubs or in libraries, usually someone asks me the question, what inspired this part of your novel, this scene? I'd like to tell you a true story now about what inspired a major scene in my first novel, The Healing Place. When I was 17 years old, I had two friends, Bruce and Mike, and we were all three distance runners for Martins Ferry High School. One night we decided that we were going to run out in the country about 3 miles out in the sticks to an old church called the Scotch Ridge Presbyterian Church. And there in the graveyard of that church sat a monument called the chair. Now all our lives we had heard about the chair and the curse that was on the chair. If you sat in that chair at midnight, you will die within 24 hours. If you didn't die within 24 hours, if you escaped that, then for sure you would die within 24 days. And if the 24 days didn't get you, your last chance was 24 weeks, and you would die within 24 weeks. We'd heard about the farmer's wife back in the 1930s who sat in the chair at midnight. The next day they found her hanging from the rafters of the barn. Then there was the Vietnam soldier who came home on leave, and on a dare he sat in the chair. When he returned to Vietnam, he died in battle 24 weeks later. Most recently, though, a kid that we knew drove up to the church with his buddies. They were drinking one night. He decided to test the curse, so he sat in the chair. On the way home, they hit the Gaylord overpass, and he died. So that night, Bruce, Mike, and I were going to test the curse. It was a long, winding hill out in the country that went to the chair, that led to the chair. And I remember it was an October night and the wind was blowing and leaves were scattering across the road. The moon was out and it was full and it was shining down on us, spattering bits and pieces of light around us like small ghosts. Bruce said to me, "Joe, have you heard about the cattle mutilations along this ridge?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And Mike said, "Yeah, it's true. Farmers have been finding their cows dead and mutilated in the fields." I thought, that's strange. Finally, we arrived at the bottom of the church driveway. The driveway went up. It was very steep, about 100 yards. And there against the night sky, I saw the silhouette of the church. We climbed the hill, and to the left of the church in the graveyard sat the monument, the infamous chair. We walked over to the monument, the moonlight shining down on us. Mike said, "Who's going to sit in it first?" I said, "Not me." Mike said, "Okay, I'll do it." He put his hands on the arms of the chair. It was kind of a tall monument. He jumped up and spun around and landed on it. He threw his head back and cackled like a wild man. Then he jumped off. He said, "Okay, who's next?" Well, Bruce was an all-Ohio runner. He wasn't going to be outdone. He said, "I'll sit in it next." So he got up and he jumped up and landed his rear on top of it. And he threw his head back, and I remember the moon glinting off his glasses as he laughed like a madman. Then he jumped down. Then they both looked at me and said, "Joe, it's your turn." Well, all the courage that I had gathered on the run out to the chair drained out of me. I looked at that monument, and here's a picture of the chair on the back of the novel. I looked at that monument and I said, "No, fellas, I'm not going to test the curse. I'm not going to sit in it." They began to make fun of me. They called me chicken. Buck, 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 buck. They called me yellow belly. They called me a lot of other names. But I said, "Nope, let's go home. I'm not going to sit in it." So we started back down the church driveway and running along that dark ridge. As we ran along, I heard these noises in the woods beside us, these scuffling noises. So I said, "Stop, fellas." We stopped and the noises stopped. We started running again and the noises started up again, this scuffling sound in the woods beside us. I said, "Stop, fellas." I said, "Bruce, give me your flashlight." Bruce had brought along his father's flashlight. So I took the flashlight and I shined it into the woods. And it seemed like 100 eyes lit up. And suddenly a pack of animals came charging out at us. Well, Bruce and Mike were all Ohio distance runners. But on the track team, I was a 400, 800 meter guy. I knew all I had to do was to outrun them and I'd be all right. If Coach Downey would have had his stopwatch on me that night, I would have broken the record for the 400 meter dash. I sprinted as hard as I could up and down that ridge, and all I heard behind me was the blood-curdling screams of my companions. After several hundred yards, I stopped and I turned around, breathing hard, and I stared into the darkness. After several minutes, I heard footsteps. From out of the blackness, Mike and Bruce appeared, and they were both holding large stones in their hands. I said, "What in the world happened?" Mike said, "A pack of wild dogs came after us out of the woods." Well, that explained the cattle mutilations. Bruce said, "Joe, if you would run that fast in our cross-country meets, we'd be undefeated." We went home, deciding never to test the curse again. We were lucky to escape it that night. If you get a chance, stop by Amazon.com and check out my novels. The Healing Place was the first one. The second one has become very, very popular down on the Outer Banks. It's called Murder at Whalehead. The same characters from The Healing Place are in this novel. My third novel will be out in September of 2008. It's called The First Shall Be Last. And I think you'll enjoy all three. So if you get a chance, please stop by Amazon.com and check them out.